But then when you have a player like Tyrese Haliburton who says, I'm not going to sit, I'm not going to rest, I'm going to keep playing, and then he tears his Achilles, now it's like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe the workload is too much. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually kind of think the opposite. I think the workload is not enough. So man, what a beautiful day. Samaria Terry is a bride. She is a married woman, y'all, out there in Jamaica on her honeymoon, but still giving us time. Samaria, I'm in Brazil, so we both live in a very, very beautiful life right now. You feel what I'm saying? But sports before all. There's a couple things I want to chat with you about today. So first off, we didn't get a chance to talk about the NBA Finals and Tyrese Haliburton's Achilles tear, which feels like more of a storyline than actually the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the championship. It feels like the NBA may be having a bit of an injury problem. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was 6 players just this season alone that tore their Achilles.
8.
3 of them.
8 players.
Oh, it was 8. Okay. 3 of them high profile, being Jason Tatum and, of course, Damian Lillard. And I saw people talking about maybe it's the low top shoes. It hasn't been scientifically confirmed, but that could be a reason. Also, the NBA has a lot more injuries than any other league in the world. And I think a lot of people talk about the workload that NBA players have. And I know that that's so touchy because I think the NBA players can see that, right? So they want to do load management. They want to sit out games, but then the fans kind of get upset about it. But then when you have a player like Tyrese Haliburton who says, I'm not going to sit, I'm not going to rest, I'm going to keep playing, and then he tears his Achilles, now it's like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe the workload is too much. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually kind of think the opposite. I think the workload is not enough. So NBA, and I'm not saying from a game perspective, I think the amount of games that NBA players play is appropriate. It's in accordance with how the league has always been. And with all the advancements in medical science, we should be able to avoid a lot of these major injuries, right? But that has not been the case. And for me, I feel like it's because NBA players do not practice nearly as much as they used to. And so their bodies technically, while, more flexible and more explosive, really aren't being designed to sustain the wear and tear of a full game for 82 times in a season. And back in the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, there were actually you had to practice. NBA players don't practice anymore, right? They're going throughout a season, maybe practicing just a handful of times. I only know that because, again, I worked for a team. I have some really good friends who are in the league. They have so much downtime. Now, granted, you hope your guys are doing their recovery and training on their own accord. But in terms of an actual practice where you're getting out, you're really running, whether that's suicides or full court fives or whatever it is that they did in college and high school that they hate now as pros, that's not taking place anymore. And so their bodies are less prepared for the rigors of an actual NBA game while functioning at a higher level, which kind of feels like a contradiction. But from my estimation, that's a huge, huge part of the problem.
Yeah, especially when it seems like they're not practicing because they don't want injuries, but it's leading to the injuries. So
it's all in preparation, right? Like you have to prepare your body for the rigors of an 82 game regular season. And then, Lord willing, you make the playoffs and you have some advancement like the Indiana Pacers. You don't want to have an experience that Tyrese Haliburton has. And I just want to say, man, my heart completely dropped when I saw that injury. I was on a plane and I could not believe it. He started out the game so hot. I thought we were about to be in for a classic all-time performance. We got robbed of a moment, man. And what an absolute tragedy. Shout out to the Thunder. But the championship feels like it comes somewhat with a little bit of an asterisk. And that's how I feel. That's not a popular
lot of
opinion.
But and I feel like OKC even felt it too. Like they were just kind of like, okay, yay.
Yeah, man.
I know that it would have felt better for them to win it with Tyrese on the floor.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Now he'll be out for the entire next season, and that sucks. Because this Pacers team, obviously coming off of this year, you want to go into next year, whether win or lose in the championship. Going into the next year, you're excited about what you were able to accomplish. And now that momentum is completely derailed. But that's sport. That is basketball. But let's talk about love and basketball because it was also brought to our attention that perhaps two former teammates, two former Huskies, might be getting it on a little bit. And I mean that in the romantic sense of the word. I'm talking about Paige Beckers and Azzi Fudd. I was, it's not my business what people do behind closed doors and, where their romance falls. But I feel like when two teammates are romantic, I want to hear about it. Okay, like I want the storyline. From your perspective, were you surprised that Paige and Azzy came out as a couple?
No, because I feel like that has been like the rumors that have been circulating and swirling around this entire time. Even when we watched them win this national championship together a couple of months ago, everybody was like, they seem to be dating, right? They go to dinner, they're on red carpets, all of the things. And so when Azzy had the Paige Becker's girlfriend on her phone case, it just kind of, she really subtly was like, yeah, that's my girl over there. And I love that for them.
Is there a scenario here? Is there a situation here when you have so much inner dating inside teams, inside of leagues, that can turn off a large portion of American fan bases, can be a little bit off-putting for fans who have maybe begun to be invested and intrigued by women's basketball more so than ever?
I feel like if for whatever reason Dallas was able to draft Azzy next year, I think that would turn up completely. Like it would be not in a bad way. Like it would be like, oh my God, like everybody, because you can already see on TikTok the amount of people that are just so interested in this relationship. So if I feel like if that goes to the W, because we didn't talk about it when they were in college because it wasn't out.
Right. I don't think anybody knew where Paige Beckers fell on the sexual spectrum of things.
Or Azzy. Yeah, we didn't know.
Yeah, right. So and the TikTok audience and fan base consumes sports very differently than the WNBA's target and core audience, right? Like they need viewership in games. And again, over the last year, by virtue of Caitlin Clark, we've seen a new set of eyeballs be interested in the sport. And I don't know if Middle America is going to be as excited about, the storylines that come out about players and their intra-squad dating and romance. And so I'm interested to see what the long-term implications and ramifications of some of these relationships are in terms of the branding of the WNBA. There's some out there who suspect, without cause or maybe with cause, that maybe Caitlin Clark could be a little bit differently than she presents. And so, how would that impact the WNBA's rapid ascension? And again, Paige Beckers is obviously a different brand in totality than Caitlin Clark is, but she is a white woman from the same state as Caitlin Clark. And
that's interesting because the W, you can't control what you're doing. In college, you could. Like, think about Dejanay and Alyssa when they were at Baylor. Kim Mulkey was like, oh, no, I'm not playing it. I don't know what Gino Oriyama's philosophy was on inter-team dating, but they didn't come out until she was drafted by the Dallas Wings. So, you can't really control it. So now, like you said, now you're in the league. It's out. People can see it. I don't know how that's going to affect the core audience. It's very interesting. But
I would love to see what the reaction is for two NBA teammates to start dating. But I'd be interested. I'd be interested to see what the public reaction is. Speaking of NBA teams, a slew of trades have gone down since I last saw you. Since before you were officially a married woman, Kevin Durant is now a member of the Houston Rockets. Just last night, we saw Drew Holiday be shipped out to Portland for Anthony Simons and a couple of picks. So what are your thoughts on, first and foremost, of course, the KD trade? Do you feel like this puts Houston in position to potentially win a championship next year?
At first I did, but then I have to remember what I feel like you said before. KD is a little older, and honestly, I saw a lot of people really upset that they let Jalen Green go. And I'm like, but what has he done?
Why?
I'm like, he hasn't done anything. That has been like the general consensus is that he's not shown up in big moments for this team. I don't know what happened. I feel like most people, when they have a family, they get children, they play harder. It seems like the opposite with Jalen. I'm not really sure, but
no, he led a 50+ win team in scoring. So that's something that he did. Like that was the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, and the bulk of the scoring load was placed on his back. So we got to give our hats off. He didn't have the best playoff performance, but he's young. He's super young. I think he's 22 years old. And so, he might not have had the playoff success, but, Kobe's first couple runs in the playoffs. He was airballing shots against the Utah Jazz for 2 straight years. So we got to give people the opportunity to grow into whatever they'll inevitably be. Do I think Jalen is a star per se? Not necessarily, but he has the opportunity to potentially prove himself down the line. Doing it in Phoenix, so I think will be a really tough challenge doing it next to Devin Booker and whatever the Suns decide to do with Bradley Beal. You got 3 shooting guards who are all making damn near $150, $150 million between the 3 of them. I have no clue what the Phoenix Suns are doing. Perhaps they flip him maybe to Brooklyn, get their picks back or something like that.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe he'll be a part of another trade because he doesn't fit,
but as far as the Houston Rockets go, man, I think that getting Kevin Durant always improves your team, but this team still has a lot of holes in their roster. They no longer have a 2 guard on their team. They drafted Reed Shepherd last year. He barely played, so I don't think you can rely on him as your starting 2 guard to win a championship. Fred VanVleet, while a phenomenal point guard, I feel like in this version of himself and this time of his career, I don't know if he's a guy who should be coming off your bench to give your second unit a huge spark, or if he should be your starting point guard. But that 2 guard position for the Houston Rockets has a huge hole in it, and I don't know how they fill it. Is it Cam Whitmore? I just think there's a lot of unproven entities. I love Amen Thompson. Jabari Smith still being on the team is good for them, but I don't think they have enough shooting and enough wing depth, which is what we saw the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder have a ton of. I don't see enough wing depth on this team to compete with the current roster constructions of successful NBA teams today. My perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
You said, yeah. She's like, it's my honeymoon. I'm in Jamaica, honey. Can wrap it up.
I mean, you said it. It was good. That's good.
You all let us know your thoughts on all the things that we discussed today. What are your thoughts on the NBA's workload? Is it too much or too little for NBA players, thereby causing injury? Of course, we want to hear your thoughts on Paige Beckers and Azzy now revealing that they're in a relationship. Crazy! And then also, what are your thoughts on Kevin Durant and the Drew Holiday trade, which we didn't get into, but I think has some real ramifications for Boston as they try to deal with the loss of Jason Tatum entering next season. We appreciate you, Fumble family. We out of here. Peace.